Morning, everybody. I wanted to start out a little talking about dehydration, and going to go a little off the whim here and discuss it from what I know through the fire service. Dehydration, as you all know, can kill people. What I've seen a lot of times, dehydration is number one mitigating factor for firefighter heart attacks. So my thought is how about you put the same stress levels during a SHTF event, and it could happen to normal people off the street. You know, some firefighters are more healthier than others, but it's a good thing to start thinking about is hydration. In the fire service, we talk about prehydration, actually increasing our fluid load before you go in for your shift, or before you start your shift, drinking increased number of water before your shift to increase that fluid levels. So I tell people, you got to picture it that way. Some things to think about. Remember, stop before you drop is one thing to think about. Cool down when it's hot, warm up when it's cold, and dry off when you're wet. That's all things that we need to think about at our preparedness levels when we're dealing with anything. Staying hydrated with non-caffeinated drinks are another thing. Having energy bars for prolonged exertion to at least try to get something back into your body if you don't have large amounts of food with you. Some signs of major dehydration or fatigue feeling is dizziness, confusion, difficulty in breathing, increased or rapid heart rate, could get the chills, nausea and vomiting, and loss of consciousness. With some of that, just think about nausea and vomiting. If you're a diabetic, that could really affect your sugar levels, because as you throw up, the more dehydrated you get, the worse your sugar levels can go. So you got things to think about when you're planning. So I tell people, you got to think about this type of stuff as you're out there. Another thing in the fire service, some of the studies are showing is sleep deprivation. Reduced sleep and quantity associated with your sleep can cause obesity, being startled and waking up, like when the pagers go off, how much it affects your heart rate, can also affect your outbeing. So picture, this is an SHTF, you're sleeping, just say you're a limited number of people, you don't have a large security force at night, an alarm trips, you jump out of bed to respond, how much stress is that putting on your body to respond to that incident? So I tell people you got to start looking at that type of stuff. Some other things to think about besides the dehydration is the amount of heat stress that's being put on your body when we're not able to have environmental control situations. You don't have air conditioning, you don't have fans, you're out in the middle of the woods, it's hot and humid, or it's post-hurricane. So that's things to think about. And then picture hypothermia, when your temperature drops. Some other things we don't always think about is, what is your plan if somebody has a cardiac event in your group? Do you have a medical facility to take them to? What are you going to do? What treatments can you offer? This could be just on a training evolution where you're down at your location and something happens. What's your plan? During 911 services is fine, but maybe 911 getting an ambulance in there isn't going to happen. Are they going to need the fire company? Can you bring that person out to a road where the ambulance can get to? State of Maryland, State Police runs helicopters where they can do hoist operations. So they can actually come in and hoist somebody if need be. Where not everybody can do that. So, can they get in with a helicopter to your area? If you have a large retreat, is there an area where a helicopter could land to set up for a medical operation? It's things you have to think about when you're planning for emergencies. Dehydration can kill a lot of people. Not having enough water can kill a lot of people. So I tell people, it's things to think about when you're dealing with it. You never know what you're going to run into. And then, go from there. So dehydration is a big thing. Another thing I just wanted to go over briefly, I'm not sure if this will help any of you. Maybe I should do a different video, but I just wanted to bring up some of the current trends on some of the street drugs. People are always asking, as preppers or emergency services, what's out there, and like anything, we're going to be dealing with this. So some of the stuff out there is they call it robo-tripping. The kids were taking and drinking cough syrup because I think it's DXM or something like that's in it. So they were using that for a fake high. Some of the other stuff out there is called wasping, where they'll take their tobacco products, marijuana, spice, K2, laid out, spray it with bug spray, and then what happens is a reaction almost is like a zombie type reaction when they do that. So that's another thing we have to watch out for. Flakka is a synthetic drug coming from overseas. It causes bizarre behaviors. Some of the things you may see with it, somebody that's on it, would be elevated heart rate, elevated blood pressure, agitation, delusion, superhuman strength, jerking muscle movements, and paranoia. It's basically a new formation of bath salts. So I tell people, you got to be careful of that. And it's the cousin of a synthetic version of the, I think it's pronounced hat plant or something like that it's called. So be prepared for that type of stuff. Carfentanil. Carfentanil is one of the biggest ones that we'll hear about. The best is carfentanil was actually designed to be used as a chemical weapon, as an aerosol. But some information on carfentanil: 1 unit of carfentanil is 100 times more potent than fentanyl. 500 times more potent than heroin, 10,000 times more potent than morphine. Some of the things with it, some of the signs and symptoms: respiratory depressant, or can cause an arrest where they stop breathing, drowsiness or profound exhaustion, disorientation, nausea and vomiting, sedation, pinpoint pupils, clammy skin. So basically, if you put your hand on them, it would almost stick to them. And the onset is within minutes. Carfentanil was designed as an elephant tranquilizer. So that came out pretty recently. And they're saying basically 2 granules the size of sand is almost enough to kill you. Also, what they're doing with some of the overdose stuff now is they're actually mixing it with blood thinners. They're taking and mixing it in with your warfarin type products, cutting the drugs with that, which causes more issues. So I tell people, you got to really pay attention to these street drugs. If you have kids, pay attention to it. But you want to be prepared. You may hear of gray death, which is fentanyl, cocaine, heroin in the elephant tranquilizer, or in a synthetic opiate mixed in. Basically, it's a concrete light color. Suspected seizure activities can happen from it. Absorbed through the skin, just touching it can cause, or inhaling it can cause an exposure. With carfentanil, another thing that I forgot to add was Russian military used it in 2002 at the theater hostage crisis in Moscow. Near perfect purpose due to the short half-life. The issue was they didn't have enough Narcan to counteract it. So be aware of that. So just to show you some of those things going on nowadays with drugs and stuff. So I tell people, remember that. And picture some of these numbers when you look at fentanyl. 200 pounds of fentanyl, street value is probably between 20 and 30 million. But that 200 pounds is enough to kill 32 million people. So when you break it down, a quarter teaspoon is equal to 1,250 milligrams. That's 625 lethal doses in a quarter teaspoon. So just to let that sink in on how little of some of these drugs is enough to kill people. And the issue is the when they make the products is the people that are getting high from it's not taking it because of that. They're taking it because the people are being told, hey, you take this new stuff, it's going to last longer, and your need requirement is going to be less. You're not going to need as much product to get your high, and this is going to last hours versus maybe an hour or two for some of the other stuff. So just wanted to bring that up. Hopefully it's something different. We talked a little bit about the rehab stuff and dehydration. Hydration is going to be key. Having people monitor your group members, having a health officer assigned to your camp, safety officer, whatever you want to call them, is going to be key. So, in the drugs, remember, we're seeing it now. How crazy would it be during an SHTF type event or a major disaster when the law is busy dealing with other things? So, be aware, be prepared. And the other thing is help each other and and come up with game plans on what you're going to do if something happens. So for now, it's been about 15 minutes. I'm going to get off here so people don't hate me for talking too much on medical prep stuff. Today is the 19th of January, and we are in pre-storm conditions here in PA, and it's about 9:51 a.m. So I will let you go. Have a great day. Be safe. If you're in the storm's path, be prepared. Have your preps ready. Still unsure what the storm totals are going to look like, but better be prepared than to be scared. Thanks. Signing off. See you in the next one.